Imagine willingly locking yourself inside, like a wooden box the size of a phone booth, and then cranking the ambient temperature to almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right. For a lot of people, that sounds like an actual, literal torture device.
Totally. But for traditional sauna enthusiasts, that intense sweltering heat is, well, it's a daily requirement for mental and physical survival.
Oh, absolutely.
You picture yourself unwinding in this cloud of eucalyptus steam, letting the stress of the day just kind of melt out of your pores. But when you actually try to bring that experience into your own home, you hit this massive wall.
Yeah, shopping for a home sauna is incredibly overwhelming.
It really is. You're suddenly drowning in electrical voltage requirements, wood density metrics, and, spatial dimensions that just don't seem to make any sense.
It goes from a relaxing wellness journey to an advanced geometry and electrical engineering exam really fast.
Yeah.
The market is just saturated right now, and the marketing copy for these products is deliberately dense, mostly to mask the real logistical hurdles of putting a superheated cabin inside a regular climate-controlled house.
I've always felt like shopping for these is a bit like walking onto a sketchy used car lot.
That's a great way to put it.
Right, like you see the shiny exterior, but there are hidden catches. You're just trying to figure out what they are before you sign on the dotted line.
Which is why we're here.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, that is exactly what we're going to do. We're analyzing a very detailed, generally positive review from pooladvisors.net, and it covers a specific product, the Almost Heaven Logan Traditional Steam Sauna.
And our mission today is to cut through that marketing noise for you. We want to evaluate if having an authentic, traditional Finnish sauna experience in a tiny apartment or literally a spare closet is a realistic dream or just an expensive headache waiting to happen.
Because on paper, Almost Heaven is promising the moon. And I have to push back immediately on the central premise here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Can you really get a true, authentic sauna experience in a footprint this small? Like, are we talking about a legitimate thermodynamic sauna or just a hot wooden box with some fancy light bulbs that makes you sweat a little bit?
Well, to answer that, we really have to look under the hood at the engine driving this specific machine.
Right.
We need to define the fundamental mechanics of how it generates and sustains heat. It's crucial to separate this product from the vast majority of cheap home saunas that are flooding social media feeds right now.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this, because if you scroll through any wellness influencer's feed, you see infrared saunas everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
They are the trendy, plug-and-play option. But this Almost Heaven Logan model is entirely different. It's a one-person indoor traditional steam sauna.
Yep.
The company's based in West Virginia. They've been manufacturing these for over 40 years, and they've equipped this specific unit with a Harvia 6-kilowatt electric heater.
Right.
So biologically and mechanically, how does this actually differ from those infrared units everyone is buying?
It really comes down to the fundamental physics of heat transfer. Infrared saunas use electromagnetic light waves to warm your body directly. It's radiant heat.
It's kind of like a microwave, like how a microwave heats the water molecules inside the food directly rather than heating the air inside the oven itself.
That is a perfect mechanical analogy. In an infrared sauna, the air around you might stay relatively cool, maybe, 120 degrees, but the light waves penetrate your skin and heat your core.
Okay, I get that.
It's like stepping into direct, intense sunlight on a crisp winter day. Your skin feels hot, even if the actual air is cold.
Right.
But the Logan model relies on the traditional Finnish principle of convection heat. It operates much more like a traditional convection oven. It has to preheat the physical environment before that environment can heat you.
And the review notes that it uses that 6-kilowatt Harvia heater to heat up 40 pounds of actual physical stones.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how this maintains ancient thermal traditions using modern electric components. In a traditional wood-fired sauna, you burn logs to heat rocks. Here, you have a powerful modern electric element using a process called joule heating. That's where electrical current passes through a resistant material to create intense heat.
And that element is just buried under the stones.
Exactly. It's buried under 40 pounds of specialized sauna stones. The electric element gets red hot, transferring that thermal energy to the stones. The stones then act as a massive thermal battery.
Oh, wow.
They store the heat and then radiate it outward to heat the air in the cabin. That is how this unit reaches a blistering 195 degrees Fahrenheit.
That is intensely hot.
It is. You heat the rocks heat the air, and then the superheated air envelops your body, causing a massive physiological response. Your blood vessels dilate, your heart rate increases, and your body just pumps sweat to try and cool down.
And because it relies on those superheated rocks, you get the flexibility of a wet or dry experience, right?
Exactly.
You could just sit in the intense 195-degree dry air, which is a very specific type of endurance. Or you could take a ladle and pour water directly over those hot stones to create a massive instantaneous burst of steam.
Which you absolutely cannot do in an infrared sauna.
No. If you throw water on an infrared light panel, you are going to electrocute yourself, or at the very least, completely ruin the machine.
Yeah, please do not do that. And that steam, what the Finns call leili, is the cornerstone of the traditional experience. When you pour water on rocks sitting at 400 degrees, it instantly vaporizes.
And that causes a sudden dramatic spike in the room's humidity.
Right, which instantly makes the room feel drastically hotter, even though the actual air temperature hasn't changed at all.
Wait, why does our body react like that if the temperature is the same?
It's basically a biological trick. Your body cools itself through the evaporation of sweat. When the air in the sauna suddenly becomes completely saturated with moisture from that burst of steam, your sweat can no longer evaporate into the air.
Oh, so the cooling mechanism is just halted entirely.
Exactly. Plus, water vapor conducts heat much more efficiently than dry air, so that steam transfers the ambient heat of the room into your skin much faster.
That makes a lot of sense.
It forces a deep, intense cardiovascular sweat that infrared radiant heat simply doesn't replicate.
It also integrates some highly practical modern touches alongside that ancient rock heating method. It features an 8-hour delay timer.
That is such a great feature.
Think about the utility of that. You're leaving the house for a brutal, high-stress day at work. You set the delay timer in the morning, the sauna just waits, turns itself on, spends an hour heating those 40 pounds of rocks, and right as you walk through your front door that evening, the cabin is already sitting at a perfect 195 degrees ready for you.
And crucially, it has a 60-minute auto shutoff mechanism.
Right.
That auto shutoff is a completely non-negotiable safety feature.
Right.
When you are dealing with a machine generating nearly 200-degree heat inside a residential structure made of drywall and 2x4s, you need a failsafe.
Yeah, you definitely don't want it running indefinitely if you fall asleep or just forget to turn it off.
Exactly.
Which begs the obvious logistical question. We are talking about installing a 195-degree powerhouse inside a house. How does a box that hot safely fit inside a standard room without completely melting the surrounding drywall or, turning the whole house into an oven?
It's a valid concern.
We need to shift from the internal heat engine to the physical footprint and the materials that actually contain this intense energy.
Right, so the spatial engineering here is very deliberate. The exterior dimensions are roughly 6 feet, 8 inches tall, about 4.5 feet wide, and just 3 feet deep.
Okay.
And the entire structure weighs about 350 pounds empty.
And the interior is obviously even tighter. You're looking at 6 foot, 5 inches high, 4 foot, 1 inch wide, and 2 foot, 7 inches deep.
It is explicitly designed for tight, underutilized spaces.
Like a spare bathroom, or a large walk-in closet, or maybe a corner of a basement. When I look at those interior dimensions, it's essentially a high-end phone booth of relaxation.
The phone booth is a really apt visualization, and what makes that confined space safe, functional, and capable of containing 195-degree heat is the construction material.
Which is cedar, right?
Yeah, the entire cabin is built from 1 3/8 inch thick, prefabricated, tongue-and-groove, solid cedar lumber.
I noticed it was built entirely out of cedar, and my first cynical thought was, honestly, that they just wanted it to smell like a fancy rustic spa to justify the premium price tag.
I mean, the aroma is certainly a pleasant byproduct.
But at 195 degrees, I have to imagine there is a real structural thermodynamic reason they didn't just use cheap plywood or a really dense hardwood like oak.
You're spot on. Cedar is chosen for its specific cellular structure. Softwoods like cedar have a very low density and a high proportion of microscopic air spaces within the wood fibers.
Okay.
Those trapped air pockets act as natural thermal insulation. They prevent the heat from conducting through the wood and bleeding out into your home's drywall.
That's fascinating.
And more importantly, this low thermal conductivity protects the user. If the walls and benches were made of a dense hardwood like oak or mahogany, the wood would absorb and retain so much heat that touching the bench at 195 degrees would physically burn your skin.
Ouch.
But Cedar absorbs the ambient heat but doesn't conduct it efficiently, so it remains totally safe to sit on.
That makes total sense.
Okay.
It's the exact same reason you use an oven mitt with trapped air pockets instead of grabbing a hot pan with a dense wet towel.
Precisely. Furthermore, cedar is inherently resistant to moisture, mold, and rot.
Which you need with all that steam.
Right. When you are constantly pouring water on hot rocks, creating dense steam in a tiny enclosed space, the humidity fluctuates wildly. You need a wood that won't warp, crack, or degrade under extreme thermal and moisture expansion.
And isn't cedar also naturally antimicrobial?
It is. And when you are sweating profusely in a tiny space day after day, that antimicrobial property prevents the wood from developing a musty locker room bacteria smell over time.
Okay, so scientifically, we have a highly insulated, rot-proof, antibacterial cedar foam booth. But from a purely human perspective, I would imagine sitting alone in a wooden box, that small breathing in superheated air could trigger intense claustrophobia for a lot of people.
The engineers at Almost Heaven clearly anticipated that psychological barrier. They integrated a 25.25-inch wide, full-length tempered glass door into the front of the unit.
That feels like a brilliant psychological trick. Having a massive glass door completely breaks up the visual boundary of the box.
It really does.
It lets ambient room light in and expands your visual horizon, making a one-person unit feel connected to the larger room outside. It completely prevents that primal panic of feeling trapped in a dark closet.
It does, and they paired that visual expansion with a single horizontal slat bench that features an integrated LED-lit backrest. So instead of a harsh, interrogating overhead light shining down on you, you have this soft, ambient glow radiating from behind the bench. It really elevates the psychological experience from sitting in a mere utility box to feeling like you are in a curated, spa-like sanctuary.
The luxurious phone booth concept is incredibly appealing. But as I was reading through the technical specifications in the review, I noticed a massive glaring omission. A huge catch that feels almost absurd for a premium product.
Uh-oh.
It doesn't have a floor.
Ah, yes. The missing floor is definitely the most controversial design choice of this model.
Wait, hold on. I am potentially paying thousands of dollars for a premium, heavily engineered home wellness sanctuary, and the bottom is just completely open. I'm supposed to just put this on my carpet.
No, you absolutely cannot put it on your carpet, which brings us to the harsh realities of installation. This is where the aspirational daydream meets cold, hard logistics.
Okay, walk me through it.
Because the unit does not come with a built-in floor, it must sit directly on your existing flooring. But it demands a solid, non-combustible, moisture-resistant surface. So concrete, tile, luxury vinyl, or laminate.
So carpet is a total deal breaker.
Carpet is strictly prohibited for obvious fire safety and moisture accumulation reasons.
But even if I have a tile floor in my bathroom, if there's no insulated floor built into the sauna, doesn't the heat just escape out the bottom?
Well, heat naturally rises, so the majority of the thermal energy pushes toward the ceiling. However, thermodynamics dictate that thermal bridging will occur.
Meaning?
A cold, uninsulated tile or concrete floor will absolutely sap the efficiency of the room, drawing heat out of the lower half of the cabin.
Ah, I see.
The Pool Advisor's review points out that several users living in colder climates actually find they need to go to a hardware store and build their own custom insulated flooring base to sit the sauna on, just to maximize the heat retention and keep their feet warm.
That feels like a massive design flaw they're trying to pass off as a DIY opportunity. Having to build your own floor for a premium product is a significant hidden friction point.
It definitely is.
But honestly, that's nothing compared to the electrical requirements. The review clearly states this unit demands a dedicated 240-volt 30-amp circuit.
Yes, and this is the hurdle that catches most buyers completely off guard.
Because it's pulling 6 kilowatts of continuous power, you're obviously forced to run a dedicated heavy-duty line. You can't just plug this into the wall next to your toothbrush.
No, absolutely not.
A standard household outlet taps out at about 1,500 watts, right? Like running a hairdryer on high.
Exactly. To continuously blast 40 pounds of rocks with 6,000 watts of power to maintain nearly 200 degrees in a humid environment, it requires a massive, unbroken flow of electricity.
So what happens if you try to plug it into a regular wall outlet?
If you tried to pull that through standard 120-volt household wiring, you would instantly trip the breaker, or worse, melt the wires, and start an electrical fire inside your walls. A 240-volt 30-amp circuit is the exact same electrical infrastructure you need to run a large electric oven or a heavy-duty clothes dryer.
So unless you happen to have a spare, unused clothes dryer outlet sitting conveniently in your walk-in closet or master bathroom,
you are almost certainly going to have to hire a licensed professional electrician to run a completely new dedicated conduit line from your main breaker box all the way through your walls to wherever you want to physically place this sauna.
And licensed electricians do not work for cheap. That easily adds hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to the overall budget, not to mention the potential need to cut into drywall to run the wires.
It's a serious commitment.
Plus, we have to talk about the physical reality of getting this thing to your house. We're talking about a 350-pound item moving through the commercial freight system. Several customers in the review reported serious delivery damage.
Right. Things like cracked tempered glass panels and deeply splintered wood frames upon arrival.
Yeah.
And this raises an important question for anyone seriously considering this purchase. What is the true, fully loaded cost of ownership here?
Exactly.
When you evaluate this product, you cannot merely look at the retail sticker price of the sauna kit on a website. You have to mentally and financially add the cost of the licensed electrician, the time and materials if you need to build that custom insulated floor pad, and the potential emotional headache of dealing with freight companies and waiting for replacement parts if it arrives shattered.
That is a staggering amount of upfront friction. Given all these severe installation hurdles, the electrical trenching, the missing floor design flaw, the heavy freight shipping risks, we really need to know if actual buyers feel the juice is worth the squeeze once it's finally running.
Let's look at the data.
Yeah, let's look at the customer reviews and the realities of actually assembling this thing in your house.
The Pool Advisor's review aggregates verified buyer feedback from Wayfair. And despite every single logistical hurdle we just discussed, the Logan model holds a very strong 4.2 out of 5-star rating across 27 detailed reviews.
That's surprisingly high for a product that requires so much extra homework.
It really is.
Let's look at some of the specific use cases. I was blown away by Jacqueline from Brookline, Massachusetts. She wrote that she built the entire 350-pound structure in 5 hours total with her father. And here is the kicker. She was pregnant at the time.
That specific review is a remarkable testament to the manufacturing tolerances of the kit.
How so?
Well, when a company prefabricates a large wooden structure, slight variations in moisture or temperature during shipping can cause the wood to warp. If the tongue and groove joints don't align perfectly, assembly becomes a total nightmare.
I see. But if a pregnant woman and her dad can knock this out in a single afternoon without heavy machinery, the physical assembly has to be highly manageable for the average person.
Exactly.
She specifically praised the clear instructions and noted that almost everything comes with perfectly aligned pre-drilled holes.
Pre-drilled holes that actually line up are the difference between a fun, satisfying weekend project and a weekend of throwing tools across the room in frustration.
Very true.
We also have Nicholas from South Euclid, Ohio. He installed his unit directly into a master bathroom. He found it to be the perfect size for a personal daily retreat, and he specifically noted that the unit heats up quickly and maintains that high temperature with ease.
Which confirms that the 6-kilowatt Harvia heater is doing its job exceptionally well in that confined spatial footprint. It has enough brute force to overcome any minor heat loss from the uninsulated floor.
Exactly.
Then there's Jen Campbell. She provided a really interesting counter perspective on the dimensions. She noted that despite being explicitly marketed and sold as a one-person sauna, it is actually wide enough for 2 average-sized people to squeeze into side by side if you really want to.
Oh, that's good to know.
But she docked a star from her review because her unit was missing a door handle upon delivery, and she was heavily frustrated by the lack of a floor, confirming she had to build her own to make it usable.
Her review perfectly encapsulates the nuanced pros and cons. The unit over-delivers on interior volume, giving you more space than advertised, but the logistical quirks, the missing floor, the missing hardware, are real, tangible pain points that affect the customer experience.
Absolutely.
Finally, the review highlights Christopher from Charlotte, North Carolina. He experienced the freight shipping damage firsthand. His side glass panel wood frame arrived completely splintered.
Dealing with a shattered 350-pound delivery is incredibly frustrating. You can't just toss it in the back of your sedan and return to a local store.
No, it is a massive inconvenience. He noted he was handy enough to repair the majority of the splintered frame himself with wood glue and clamps, but it highlights the underlying physics of logistics. When you order a heavy, rigid wooden structure with large glass panels, and it gets bounced around on forklifts and freight trucks for hundreds of miles, damage is a genuine statistical risk you just must be mentally prepared for.
So what does this all mean for you? We've weighed the intense thermodynamic power of the traditional rock heat against the clever, compact cedar design. We've looked at the heavy electrical requirements, the glaring omission of a floor, and the glowing but very honest customer reviews regarding assembly and shipping.
It's a lot to process.
It is. It's time to synthesize this data into a final verdict. Exactly whose home does this sauna belong in?
Based on the synthesis of the specs and the user data, there is a very clear, narrow, ideal buyer profile for the Almost Heaven Logan. First, it is best for a single or solo primary user.
Okay.
While Jen noted 2 people can physically squeeze in, it is ergonomically designed for 1 person to stretch out and relax comfortably without bumping elbows.
Second, you need to be someone with limited square footage, but you must have a dedicated space that already has solid, non-carpeted floors. You can't just impulse buy this and put it in a carpeted guest bedroom or an unfinished basement with moisture issues.
Right.
It needs to go in a master bath, a utility room, or a large walk-in closet with tile, vinyl, or concrete.
Third, this is exclusively for someone who fundamentally understands and prefers traditional wet and dry convection heat over modern infrared light therapy. You have to want that authentic, intense, rock-heated air and the ability to generate steam.
Yeah, you have to want the real deal.
And finally, and perhaps most critically, the ideal buyer is someone who is fully willing and has the budget to hire a professional electrician to trench that 240-volt, 30-amp hookup.
So who should absolutely avoid buying this model?
Anyone who anticipates needing seating for 2 people regularly. It will just be too cramped to be relaxing. Also, anyone who wants a simple plug-and-play unit with a built-in floor that they can just plug into a standard wall outlet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And practically speaking, if you are renting an apartment, your landlord is almost certainly not going to permit you to drill through the walls to install a dedicated 240-volt line for a personal sauna.
That is a crucial point for renters. Let's hit the essential logistics from the review FAQ really quickly. Pricing fluctuates wildly based on sales and seasons, so you'll want to check Wayfair for the current numbers. Wayfair does offer a 30-day return window for a refund or store credit, which gives you a slight safety net if the freight damage is catastrophic.
That's a good safety net to have.
As for the manufacturer warranty, Almost Heaven provides one, but you have to read the fine print closely. It covers replacement parts and manufacturing defects only after a company inspection, and it strictly excludes normal wear and tear, weather damage if you try to put it outside, or general consumer misuse.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are really analyzing here is a complex transaction of time, money, and effort. This sauna trades severe upfront logistical friction sourcing the electrician, building the cedar cabin yourself, potentially constructing a floor base, and dealing with the anxiety of freight shipping for long-term daily convenience.
Right.
Once the friction of assembly is over, you have a high-quality, authentic, traditional thermal wellness tool directly inside your home, available every single day at the push of a button.
To sum up the deep dive, the Almost Heaven Logan is a genuinely fantastic, space-saving architectural solution for traditional sauna purists, provided you are fully prepared for the infrastructural setup. It is absolutely not a magic plug-and-play box.
Definitely not.
But if you do the structural groundwork, it delivers a powerful, authentic physiological experience. If this sounds like the perfect fit for your home wellness routine and your floor plan, you can check current pricing, read more reviews, and buy the sauna using the link in the description below.
You know, all this intricate discussion about the logistics of putting a 200-degree wooden box inside a walk-in closet leaves me with a broader thought I can't quite shake.
What's that?
Well, for centuries, the traditional Finnish sauna was an inherently communal, shared space. It was a standalone building, a place for social gathering, intergenerational family bonding, and community wellness.
Yeah, it was deeply rooted in a public bathhouse culture. You went there to connect with others.
Exactly. But today, we are utilizing advanced materials and modern electrical engineering to figure out how to squeeze those ancient communal wellness practices into highly individualized, compact, solitary spaces.
That is true.
What does this architectural shift tell us about our modern psychological need to unplug? Are the outside world and our constant digital connectivity so overwhelming that we are slowly turning our private homes into the ultimate isolated fortresses of solitude?
That is a deeply fascinating way to view the home wellness trend. We've evolved from seeking wellness and decompression within our community to literally building a 195-degree, heavily insulated cedar phone booth in our master bathroom just to escape the world for an hour. It's like we finally figured out how to buy a highly engineered vehicle that doesn't actually take us anywhere, but just lets us park in our own house, lock the glass door, and finally catch our breath.
Beautifully said.
We will leave you to ponder that one. Keep learning, stay curious, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.